Imagine this, you step into a quiet room at dawn, only the hush of your breath and the ticking of a distant clock remain. On the wall hangs a mirror, antique and splintered with time. You approach it as you've done every day for years. But today, something is off. Your reflection blinks a moment too late. It smiles without you. It holds your gaze not with recognition, but with something foreign. And then you realize it's not echoing you. It's watching you. What if the mirror could lie? Worse, what if it already has every day in plain sight? We grow up believing the mirror is neutral, a tool, a surface of truth that reports back faithfully. Yet what if the mirror is the first deception we learn to trust? Its surface flat, but its impact deep, a silent sculptor of identity. This is the subtle horror that the image we accept as me has always been distorted by unseen hands, culture, trauma, ego, expectation. We peer into glass, hoping to find clarity, but instead we adopt the mask reflected back at us. Carl Jung once warned, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But how can we accept what we've never truly seen? The lie begins in childhood. You're told who you are, you're the smart one, you're too sensitive, you're not like them, and so the mirror builds its frame from others' words. Over time, that frame hardens, ossifies. And what's inside it? A reflection not of your essence, but of adaptation, compliance, survival. There's a haunting symmetry between the mirror and the persona, the outward face we present to the world. Both are illusions we come to mistake for truth. Jung called the persona a system of behavior that is imposed upon the individual by the environment. Like a mirror frozen in a single angle, it reflects only the version of ourselves that has been rehearsed, not lived. But even rehearsals bleed into reality when repeated enough. So what happens when you start to notice the cracks? When the familiar becomes uncanny? When the person staring back begins to feel like a stranger? The first fracture is existential. If the reflection is false, then who truly is behind the glass? This is where the descent begins. There's a moment, quiet, internal, when you begin to suspect that the face you wear was never yours to begin with. You walk into a room full of people who know you, and yet you feel unknown. They smile, nod, greet the name they've attached to a version of you long since hollowed out. You smile back. Reflex, performance, a mask, not to deceive others, but to preserve the fragile illusion of coherence within. This mask is not malicious. It's evolutionary, protective. It forms in response to expectation, approval, rejection, and fear. Over time, it grows flesh, memory, language. It becomes convincing. You become convincing, but not whole. Jean-Paul Sartre believed that existence precedes essence. We are not born with a self, we become one, often by default. Shaped by others' projections, we perform roles. The achiever, the rebel, the caretaker, the loner. And the more others reflect these identities back at us, the more we internalize them. Like a mirror that echoes only the familiar angles, we stop turning. We freeze in place, mistaking stillness for identity. But identity built on performance is brittle. A moment of crisis, loss, illness, failure, can shatter it instantly. That's when the mask begins to suffocate, clings like a second skin. You try to rip it off, but beneath it, you find only more masks. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." In other words, the source of our desires, our identities, may not be ours at all. The reflection is scripted. Even rebellion can be a rehearsed form of conformity, just another reflection we've inherited rather than chosen. And yet, there is something underneath, something that resists, that whispers in moments of solitude, of silence, of grief. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg. It waits, a fragile truth that has survived the pressure of a lifetime's illusions. But truth is not comfortable. It demands confrontation. If the mirror lies and the mask breathes, then awakening begins not with discovery, but with disillusionment. You have to lose who you were told to be before you can remember who you are. What do you do when the image splinters? When the mirror that once promised certainty now cracks beneath your gaze, refusing to show you anything but fragments? This is the point most people turn away. Revert. Glue the pieces back. Tell themselves it was just a phase, or everyone feels this way sometimes. But if you're still here, still staring, you already know there's no going back. Once the illusion falters, even comfort becomes counterfeit. Friedrich Nietzsche warned, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. But what if the destruction of illusion is the only path to liberation? The shattering brings a strange clarity. You begin to see how much of your life was authored by fear, the fear of rejection, of being unloved, of disappearing. So you built yourself to be needed, to be admired, to be small enough to fit inside someone else's dream. But now the scaffolding collapses. The dreams that propped you up vanish. The things you once clung to, titles, labels, validations, feel weightless, meaningless. This is the psychic void, what Jung called the night sea journey, a descent into the unconscious where all the false selves go to die. It is not romantic. It is not poetic. It is terrifying. You might feel untethered, like a soul with no face. You might find yourself weeping for reasons you can't name. You might feel rage, not just at others, but at yourself for all the years you lived as someone else, all the moments you betrayed your own instincts just to stay intact. This pain is sacred, because in its depths lies the possibility of something true. Aldous Huxley once observed, experience is not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. And now in this ruin, you are left with the raw material of selfhood, stripped of costume, myth, and echo. You are not yet whole, but you are real. This is where the real mirror begins, not one of reflection, but of inner witnessing. A mirror that does not lie because it does not speak. It listens. It waits. The next step is not to rebuild. It is to meet the one who watches from within. In the silence that follows collapse, something stirs, not loud, not urgent, but steady. A presence that has watched all your roles, all your reflections, all your illusions, and remained untouched. The witness. It is not your voice, not your thoughts, not your history. It has no agenda. It simply is. This is the part of you that cannot be reduced to image or narrative. It has been there since before language, before you knew your name. Viktor Frankl, after surviving the Holocaust, described a space between stimulus and response where the human soul remains free. He wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." That change begins with recognizing the witness within, the observer, not the actor. For most of our lives, we confuse ourselves with the mask. We say, "I am anxious. I am not good enough. I am this or that." But the witness sees differently. It sees that anxiety rises and falls. That shame is learned, not inherent. That worth is not earned, but revealed. The ego resists this. It thrives on definition, identity, control. It fears the witness because the witness cannot be manipulated. The witness does not care if you succeed or fail. It doesn't praise or punish. It simply sees. That kind of seeing is power, and ego calls it death. But it's not death. It's rebirth. In the presence of the witness, the mirror stops matching. The image, the performance, the persona, they fall away like smoke. What remains is awareness. Pure, vivid, and raw. You begin to realize that you are not broken. You are not lost. You are uncovered. And beneath every lie the mirror told, there is something untouched by distortion. A soul that has not aged, even as your face has. This isn't detachment. It's intimacy of the deepest kind. Sartre might argue that we are condemned to be free, but here, in this place of pure witnessing, that freedom is no longer a sentence. It's a release. From here, a different kind of life can begin, not one built to be seen, but one built to be felt. Once the witness awakens, the world shifts. Not instantly, this isn't some romantic enlightenment, but slowly, irrevocably. You begin to see others differently. Not just as roles or reflections, but as fractured, haunted beings like yourself, performing, pretending, aching to be seen beneath the surface. And so you stop asking mirrors for truth. You begin to live as one. Not a mirror that reflects illusion, but one that reveals essence. A quiet presence that says, "I see you." Not who you've been told to be. Not who you perform. But you. The philosopher Martin Buber once wrote of the I-thou relationship, a sacred meeting between two beings, stripped of objectification, stripped of ego. When you live from the witness, this becomes possible. You no longer relate from your mask to theirs. You meet soul to soul. Not perfectly, not always, but more and more. You also begin to tolerate contradiction within yourself. You are light and shadow, compassion and rage, beauty and ugliness. As Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. There is no need to purge the dark anymore. You hold it gently, knowing it belongs. You are no longer at war with yourself. This is the final undoing of the false mirror. The understanding that wholeness is not perfection, but integration. You are not the image you chased. You are the awareness that watched the chase. And now you begin to build, not from fragmentation, but from truth. Maybe it's quiet at first. Maybe no one notices. That's okay. This life is not for display. It's for depth. You begin to speak less from certainty and more from listening. You move with a deeper rhythm, no longer dictated by the need to be seen, but by the desire to connect, not to impress, to belong. And strangely, even as you disappear from the mirror, you feel more real than ever. Not because you've found your true self, but because you've stopped pretending there was only one to find. You are not a reflection. You are the light. You are the shadow. You are the mirror when it no longer lies.